All right. So like I did a video last week, um, and I was kind of drunk because I just watched the Champions League, and so people told me that like they liked me doing these videos drunk. So I'm just gonna like keep on doing drunk videos. That being said, like I'm pretty wasted. I spent the day on a boat. Uh, Day drinking. So I'm doing a samba class later. So let's just get into this. So the first thing that I want to talk about today, actually, I'm going to crack open this Amstel Lager. Um, there's no. I'm in Rio de Janeiro right now. There's no real good like Rio beer, so I've just been like drinking Amstel and shit. First thing I want to talk about, and it's kind of like a weird place to start, but like there's this like long tweet by Candace Owens earlier today, or like yesterday, or sometime, and she was basically talking about like all these atrocities that the United States did in World War II, and like I've made like two videos about this already. Like there's this weird fucking thing right now where everybody just wants to shit on the United States in World War II. And I thought it was just a leftist thing because like leftism, and I'm going to talk about this in a second when I'm talking about the Palestinian protesters. Like there are a lot of leftists who are just like very clear that they want to like destroy Western civilization. They think America is evil. They want to like undermine, decolonize, like all this shit. And so it makes sense like why they're doing it. Like I disagree, obviously, but like I understand their ideological project. I have no idea why Candace Owens is like shitting on American World War II. Especially because like American World War II, like the way I was thinking about this today, like imagine you made a video, imagine you made a documentary, right? About the 1972 sorry, the 1996 Bulls. I really am drunk right now. The 72-10 Bulls, right? And like instead of making a documentary about like the games that they won, the championships that they won, like all that type of stuff, instead you made a documentary about the 10 games that they lost, and then the playoff games that they lost. And like at the end of it, you were like, oh well, the 96 Bulls, were they really that good? It's like yes, like every single thing you can nitpick, right? So this specifically, um, she accuses America of ethnically cleansing uh, Eastern Europe of Germans, right? After World War II. And like, the point of this, as the point of all this stuff, is to just be like, well, America did bad stuff too, yada yada yada. Okay, like let's just take a second to just think about how fucking retarded this is. Okay, seriously, just let's think about how fucking stupid this is. Okay, she's talking about the ethnic cleansing of Germans in Eastern Europe. Americans weren't in Eastern Europe. It was the Soviets who took over Eastern Europe, right? And like, yeah, Stalin did some pretty disgusting shit, but that's because Stalin was a pretty disgusting person. And laying this at the feet of America, she says, you know, she basically says like the Allies, right? And like, and it's like, well, you know, America and the Soviet Union were responsible for this the same way that me and Michael Jordan were responsible for winning 6 NBA championships. Like one of these two people did the thing a lot more than the other, and it was the Soviet Union. You know, so that's the first thing, right? Again, like Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia was run by the Soviets post World War II, right? Now, like the second thing, it says 12 million German civilians were expelled across Eastern Europe, forced shipped to their homes and property and citizenry for the crime of speaking German. This is fucking bullshit. First of all, like, yeah, I mean, like, Stalin did do this stuff, right? But, like, you have to remember there were a ton of Germans who were brought into Eastern Europe after Germany conquered Eastern Europe. So, like the whole idea of Hitler was this thing called Lebensraum. I think that was his term, right? That basically like the Germans would view Eastern Europe and Russia as like a playground, and like the Slavs literally means slaves would be their slaves, right? And so there all these Germans were brought into Eastern Europe specifically to colonize Eastern Europe. So I don't think it's like that preposterous even to say, hey, like you're living in a stolen house. And it's not even a house that was stolen like, 2 years ago, like 100 years ago. It was a house that was stolen like 2 years ago. Like give it back. And then like people, and I think this is why she's doing this. Because Candace Owens, huge anti-Semite, hates Israel. I'm not saying that she's anti-Semite because she hates Israel. I mean, I do think that those two things go together a lot more than people would like. But like, am I? Yeah. So she's also just like, she is anti-Israel and is an anti-Semite, right? Like Kanye's whole anti-Semitic stuff came from Candace Owens, right? So like she's doing this to play this whataboutism game. Like she knows that this is going to be the counter argument, right? That like the Germans were brought there to ethnically cleanse the normal people, like the Slavic people, and then she's going to turn around and say, well, what about Israel, right? And here is the disingenuous part: is that so the Nakba, it's called the tragedy, the disaster, right? And again, I'm drunk, so this is why I'm like taking like these like breaks and stuff. The Nakba, the thing that the Palestinian people will never talk about the Nakba is that the Palestinians left, right? And like they left because they thought they were going to take the land back. Not only that, they invaded Israel in 1948. Like no one ever fucking talks about this. Like seriously, like it's the weirdest part about this whole discussion is that like they split up the land, and then the Palestinians invaded, and somehow like kicking the Palestinians out was like ethnic cleansing when you were literally just attacking these people 5 minutes ago. Okay, but like, do you see how there's a difference, right? Like Poland didn't attack Germany. Right? And like, Polish people didn't give up their houses to the Germans when the Germans came. The Polish people fought tooth and nail, had multiple uprisings. So to try to equivocate these two things like shows the incredible anti-Semitism that she has. Now, on the topic of anti-Semitism, let's talk about Cornell University. So like usually I'll like plan these, but as I said, like this is just kind of spur of the moment, right? So like you see these videos, and like I've tweeted about this stuff, so I'm just gonna like take up videos that I've brought up. Like Columbia University has become anti-Israel place, right? And so this is one person said that like never forget the 7th of October. That will not happen. That'll happen not one more time, not 5 more times, not 10, not 100, not 1,000, but 10,000 times. 7th of October is gonna be every day for you. And like this really is the ideology of a lot of these people. And like there's a longer video, and I wish I had it, and like I'll bring it up next time. I'm thinking about doing these lives like daily now, where like this woman like gives this whole speech about decolonization. I'm pretty sure you've seen this type of stuff over and over again. And like this really is the ideology at play, is that these people aren't like just interested in stopping human rights violations in Palestine, right? Even though like that's what a lot of them like pretend to be, that's what a lot of them fall back on. But like really what they're interested in is this is like a socialist movement to try to decolonize and deconstruct and destroy the West. Um, I think it's like an important distinction to bring up is like there is a difference between like a liberal and a leftist. Um, where like a liberal just kind of like believes, in like the status quo. Um, in European parlance, this is the difference between a communist and a socialist. This is like the big schism in May 1968 in France, right? Is that like there are people who just believe in like incremental change, changing things slightly in the system, and then there are people who like are like seriously gung ho about like a revolution, right? And the question is like which of those, if you're on the left, which of those two are you? Are you a liberal or are you a leftist? And the reason why this is such an important question is that like the leftists have started to kind of drive the bus a little bit, and that is pretty scary for me. As just give some background on myself. Like I worked in politics for 4 years in the Democratic Party. I never voted for a Republican in my entire life, and like for me, it's kind of scary because like I've always been aware of these people, but like I never thought that they had any consequence in the party that I was a part of. But now it really seems that these people are driving the bus, and that's scary. And you have to ask yourself, like, do you want to be a part of a political coalition that is saying, never forget the 7th of October. This will happen not one more time, not five more times, not 10, not 100, not 1,000, but 10,000 times. And even if, like, obviously, like, Joe Biden is not saying that, but a lot of the people that surround him are looking at these protests and are saying yes. And that's the scary thing for me. Um, One thing I was thinking about this today is that, like, I think the big difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is that Donald Trump is crazy, but is surrounded by sane people, and Joe Biden is sane, but is surrounded by crazy people. Um, and like, this is a serious question that we need to start asking as we're approaching the election. Like, you know, to what degree is Joe Biden kowtowing our foreign policy to a group of people who very clearly want to destroy America? And like, do we want people who want to destroy America to be deciding American policy? I would argue no. I think that the people who are deciding American policy should, like, at the very least, be indifferent towards America. Ideally, you'd want them to like America, but like you wouldn't want them to hate America. And it seems like that is a lot of the groups of people that were that are driving policy in the Democratic Party, because Joe Biden needs to win Michigan. He needs to win Dearborn, Michigan, and these are the voters in Dearborn, Michigan. There was literally a rally last week where they were chanting "Death to America" in Dearborn, Michigan, and everyone knows that Dearborn, Michigan, is the most important place for Joe Biden to win. So do we want the person who is like trying to win over Death to America voters? Same way, by the way, in 2017, when I was a Democrat, it was like, do you want the guy who thinks that there were fine people at both sides of Charlottesville? Obviously not. But things have changed. It's been 7 years. It's been a long time. So, you know, hopefully there's not another Charlottesville. Hopefully there's not another alt-right. But I think that right now Donald Trump is playing this really smartly, where he's just trying to look like the normal candidate. Like, obviously, like, tough and all this type of stuff, but he's really, you see this in his abortion positions, where he's really like, he's saying like it's states' rights, but like what he's really saying is, look, don't pin any position on this on me. I don't want to talk about this. I think it's smart. So that leads us to our third political story. And I like doing this without a format. I think it's better. I mean, it's kind of weird because I'm literally just like, hey, like look at my Twitter, but like, you know, um, let's like watch this video. So I have like two more tech stories. The next two, this story is gonna be like a politics and tech story. The next story is just gonna be like a straight up tech story, and then we have like we talk with Formula One, and then we're gonna end it with some soccer. So yeah, let's just listen to Elizabeth Warren talk while I smoke a little bit and drink a little bit more.
Green techs on iPhones, they're ruining relationships. That's right. Non-iPhone users everywhere are being excluded from group texts, from sports teams chats to birthday chats to vacation plan chats.
I love that she calls it sports teams chats. Like that sounds like the type of thing where like an anthropologist who like studies Western civilization like 10,000 years from now would like call in a sports team chat. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like the type of shit an alien would call it. Like I don't think anyone's ever like, hey, do you want to be a part of my sports team chat?
Chats, they're getting cut out, missing out on plans and conversations. And who's to blame here? Apple. That's just one of the dirty tactics that Apple uses to keep a stranglehold on the smartphone market. Apple has used its monopoly on smartphones to lock Americans into services and amass billions of dollars in profits. Apple even takes a cut every time you use Tap to Pay and has blocked a new app that would have let Android users finally use iMessage and get those blue texts. That's why last month, the Department of Justice sued Apple for its broad-based exclusionary conduct. And that's the right thing to do. It's time to break up Apple's monopoly now.
All right, like I made a video about this, and like since then I've just become more intransigent about this point. Like, so I think there are two big things at play. The first one is that like, you know, like this would be a lot easier if I was sober. So like, you ever like hear someone give you like a bullshit reason for something? You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, you know, can let's like go get dinner, and they're like, oh, I can't go to this place because I'm a vegan, and you're like, since when? Like since when are you a vegan? Or like oh, I can't eat like non-kosher food. It's like, bro, I saw you eating a bacon cheeseburger yesterday, right? So like there are situations where someone is clearly giving you a BS excuse, but then there are other times where like the person actually is a fucking vegan, right? And like it may be annoying, but like the guy's been a vegan for a while, so like you should know that. I think first of all, I think Steve Jobs was actually a vegan. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was. He was just like an annoying prick that way. But like, you know, Apple's whole thing for its entire history has been closed systems, right? In fact, if you watch the Aaron Sorkin movie about Steve Jobs, I think it's really good. Like that's like the whole movie. Like that's like the whole thing about Steve Jobs, right? Is that like basically you had all these computers, like Microsoft, like PCs, where you can like mix and match components. And the benefit of that is that you can get the best processing, the best everything. But at the time, people who weren't used to phones, I mean not phones, but who weren't used to computers, felt like there's this huge knowledge cliff that they had to climb in order to start using computers. So basically, what Apple did was they created these call it a closed system where everything plays in one sandbox. And this is the thing in 1984 or 1985 when Steve Jobs was fired by Apple. It was because of this. This was the reason why. Because there was the Apple II that was selling really well, that wasn't a closed system. And then there was the iMac. I don't know if it was called the iMac back then. Was it called the iMac? It was called the Mac, I think, just the Mac. And basically, that was like a closed system, and no one wanted it. And then he went to Next, where he also built a closed system. Right. So the reason why I say this is like when they accused Apple of having a closed system for uncompetitive reasons, that's just not true. Apple was like Steve Jobs was willing to have Apple die in order to have a closed system. And, he went through a lot of pain for that. And then finally, he was proven correct. And it seems weird now that that Apple's finally getting the fruits of the closed system. Then now we're going to turn around and say, "Oh, Apple, you have to have an open system. You have to do all this other stuff." It's like, no, the whole thing about Apple, the whole value prop of Apple is that this is a closed system. That is why you sign up for Apple, is because everything plays in one sandbox. But my other way of thinking about it too, with specifically the iMessage stuff, is that like Apple just built better products, and now other companies want to be able to access them for free, and I just think that it's kind of screwed up. Yes, like Apple. Sorry, this got disconnected. I'm just gonna. Riveting television. So Apple, the analogy that I like to think about this is that like imagine you ran a pizza place, right? And you made the best marinara sauce on planet Earth, right? And then like other pizza places were like, it's uncompetitive that you have the best marinara sauce. And so you need to give us your marinara sauce for free so that we can compete on cheese and dough. And you're like, well, no, like I made the best marinara sauce. Like there are all these things that I need to get a new fucking computer. What the fuck is wrong with this shit? Anyway, I'm just gonna power through it. So ironically, on a Mac, that I'm extolling Mac's virtues while my fucking Mac computer is fucking shitting a brick. So like all of this stuff is part of the pizza. All of this stuff is part of the Apple experience, and if you don't like that Android or Google or whatever, like there's a simple thing that you can do, which is just make a better fucking pizza, make a better product, make your own version of iMessage that everyone wants to be a part of, and then it won't matter that Apple's product is so much better. All right, so here's my last tech story. This I haven't really done like tech this. This isn't really tech stuff. We're gonna do like the actual tech stuff some other time. But so basically, my computer just keeps on disconnecting. I don't know why. So that's why you see the light changing like that. It's because I'm using the light of my computer to lighten me up, but because this Airbnb that I'm in, it feels like being on calls feels like I'm in a fucking prison. It really does. It really looks like I'm in a detention facility right now. So here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna do this to solve the problem. Nope, that does not solve the problem. It solves the problem a little bit. Anyway, so Zuck. This is the problem with doing this shit drunk. Anyway, let's go back to Zuck. Honestly, I think this is pretty funny. But so I think that one of the big things in the AI debate is that we haven't really had a protagonist if you're kind of like if you believe in deregulation of artificial intelligence, there really isn't a protagonist, right? Sam Altman is basically like a Microsoft cutout at this point. Whenever Sam Altman speaks, is basically Satya talking, and Microsoft is basically trying to increase regulation so that they can stop any like new market entrants, right? Like that's clearly what they're doing, and it sucks. But like, and it's the same thing Elon Musk is doing. And then Google, there was like a brief shiny moment where like Sergey Brin came back, and it seemed like he would like change everything, but like he didn't. Um, you know, he basically just like like we saw what happened with Google Gemini, right? And Google Gemini, I think, is actually like a perfect reason, like an encapsulation of like the problems with having centralized artificial intelligence, right? Is that like you literally just have like one dominant ideology, and they get to dictate to you what you can believe, what the truth is. That actually the Pope is an Indian woman, which is like the most ridiculous thing in the world. You know, like the Pope is just inherently like not a, you know, uh, like not a diverse thing. So like to like purposely try to instill diversity, in my opinion, is kind of crazy. So like all these things are bad, but then like Zuck has been kind of like on a um, you know on like a publicity tour. Like we saw him at the Indian wedding. We saw like the McDonald's picture. If you haven't seen that, I'm gonna pull this up. Like Zuck McDonald's. Like he's fucking looking cool. We have him with Jensen Huang. Like doing the jersey swap. And yeah, I mean like basically uh yeah, I have to stop this soon because I'm crashing. I'm gonna take a nap in a second. But yeah, basically Zuck's just cool now, and he's also pro deregulation. He gave like a great interview the other day, and all this to say that like I think that we kind of like found the person who is like the champion of AI, of deregulation, and that's Mark Zuckerberg. And he basically like released Llama, open source for free, and like the big reason is because like OpenAI's revenue is 1.3 billion. I made a video about this. Like you can watch that video, but like OpenAI's revenue is 1.3 billion. Facebook's is 135 billion. Like they can just do this stuff for free, and like it does not matter to them. So yeah, we're all Team Zuck. All right, let's do some F1 stuff before I pass out. So here was my F1 like predictions for the Chinese Grand Prix. And I got this. I got this like kind of wrong. Like I just apparently cannot predict the Chinese Grand Prix at all. So Max and Lando, I got that. I mean, Max is easy, but Lando was a little more difficult. Piastri shat the bed. Sainz and Leclerc ended up ahead of Sainz. I thought that Perez was going to drop down more in the order, but he managed to keep out to third. Good for him. I think I called George Russell correct. Like no, George Russell, I called him getting eighth. Instead, he got sixth, which good for George Russell. I thought that Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton would both shit the bed. Fernando kind of shot the bed, but Lewis had a great race. Congratulations. One thing I'm happy about is that like my Haas prediction keeps on being correct, and like Haas just keeps on scoring 1-2 points every single race, and I think that they're clearly going to get seventh this year. So I'm pumped about that. One final thing, like I thought this was going to be the return of Daniel Ricciardo. In a way, like it kind of was. Like he had a great race until Lance Stroll like destroyed him. And I think the fact that he DNQ'd or DNF'd kind of gives him another week because he got like knocked out of the race, so it's clearly not his fault, and he was in a position to score points. So, did he prove himself? No, but does he get some more time? I think so, especially because Sainz had a really bad race. Like, look at this. He was 10 seconds off Charlotte, and like at the race, did it seem like he was going to do anything except be number 5 worse. So yeah. Anyway, I gotta find the correct level of drunk for these videos, but I'm crashing. So I'm gonna start doing these every day, to be honest with you. So just like log in every day. We're gonna have some fun. Once people start actually like showing up to this stuff, we're gonna have some cool chats. Subscribe, all that stuff. Till next time, peace.